44% of Africa's population, the majority of whom are women, live below the poverty line of $39 per month. Women continue to lack access to resources such as land, capital, technology, and adequate food and water.
The African Women Development Fund has made a big difference in the lives of Liberian women, Liberian girls. I would like to see your work expanded because not only in Liberia, you have promoted and raised the profile, the stature, the status, the participation of thousands of women all over the African continent.
If we have to march, AWDF will come and march. If we are singing, AWDF will come and sing. You know, if we are talking, AWDF is there to listen or to talk alongside with you.
There's no way you can change women's life without getting the power that is required to shake, to move mountains, dear.
So to have the first Pan-African Women's Fund is something, it's a really proud achievement. It's something the AWDF should be very proud of, and it's something that other funders should actually be backing in a really big way.
Let's keep the fire burning because we have a part to play in redefining and reshaping the future of Africa.
Being a woman isn't easy. Becoming one is even harder. Choices to make, who do I listen to? It's also confusing. Parents would understand, or so I thought. But through this all, you kept me on the straight and narrow. You taught me humility, respect, to walk tall and shine. So when my shine begins to fade, I reach deep down inside for all the lessons that you taught and gave me about life. I am what I am because of you. So when my shine begins to fade, I reach deep down inside for all the lessons that you taught and gave me about life. I am what I am because of you.
Ten years ago, 3 women, Joanna Foster, BC Adeleye-Fayemi, and Hilda Tadria, joined forces to establish a unique foundation in Africa, AWDF, the African Women's Development Fund, a grant-making foundation for African women's organization, supporting African women's organizations with grant-making, capacity building, and technical assistance.
We were aware of the challenges that we would face in terms of being able to mobilize adequate resources to support women's organizations on a Pan-African level, not just work in West Africa or Southern Africa or East Africa, but to be able to support women's groups all over Africa. We were aware that that was going to be a big challenge.
We actually wanted to have an intervention that would be effective.
We felt it was right to set up a fund for African women which was controlled by us and which was reflected our needs and our aspirations.
3 African women never met each other before, had the same dream, had the same goal, and were able to work together. And for that reason, I think for me this is one of the most important interventions in the African region.
In its first year of operation, AWDF granted $344,000 to 38 women's groups in 28 countries. 10 years later, AWDF has granted over $15 million to 800 women's groups in 42 African countries. AWDF funds work in 6 thematic areas: women's human rights, political participation, peace building, health and reproductive rights, economic empowerment, HIV and AIDS. AWDF prioritizes programs which develop and promote women's leadership and advocacy across all these themes. The thematic areas were chosen because they feature very highly on the agenda of the African women's movement. This documentary looks at the impact that African Women's Development Fund has made over the past 10 years.
Oh, somebody, tell her that I love you. Put your hands together and say, girl, child. Oh, somebody, tell her that I love you. Put your hands together and say, girl, child. Equality, education, empowerment.
AWDF believes in the personhood of African women and that their rights are inalienable, indivisible, and integral part of universal human rights.
The major activity, and that's where we started, is the weekly lessons with girls. Consists of personal empowerment topics like self-esteem, assertiveness, body image, communication skills, building their capacity and letting them know that they are resourceful, that they are human, and they have all the rights to speak out.
My mom used to tell me that women do not talk, but now she believes that women talk because of the impact of GPI.
There are certain areas that we are not able to raise funds from other sources. But African Women Development Fund, because it is here in Africa, understand what it is that we are talking about, the issue of empowerment of women.
I have seen girls and women who are very shy, who are very meek, but now they can stand up for their rights. They can express themselves.
This
association was founded in 1983, basically to provide a platform for self-expression for the women in the media, but also to provide the platform for the women to express themselves, generally to express themselves, because the issues to do with women were being sidelined.
You tell someone I'm a technician and they get surprised. They are female, you are a technician, wow. I remind them this is Mama FM, empowering women.
Women are not stupid. It is just a catalyst. Provide an opportunity and then they will be as equal to men, and you never know, even much better than the men.
My name is Chiwendu Oseke. I'm 14 years old. I'm from Imo State. I came to this Lagos in 2007 with my auntie. That is my mommy's senior sister. But my mommy had me when she was a teenager. So she had get married to another man and she had 4 children. It's even my auntie that told me that she's the one that gave birth to me. So when they brought me to this Lagos, she put me in primary 4. She said I have to start at the beginning again. Then I refused. I want to be in primary 6. She said no, that she would put me in primary 4. Then I agreed. So it was during that time that husband started disturbing me every night. That I don't know who to tell, because the husband governed the house. Even if I tell my auntie, she will not do anything. So I don't know what to do. That was how my auntie husband was doing until he now impregnated me.
My name is Josephine Chukuma, and I'm the Executive Director of Project Alert on Violence Against Women, a non-governmental women's rights organization set up in January 1999 to promote and protect the rights of women, especially in the area of violence against women.
AWDF
by agreeing to put our money in Project Alert, we have proved that our heart is in the protection and promotion of women's rights. When I come from Uganda, unless you really see it, you don't believe it. So, to show you that for real, here are the keys. I think they should be presented to the Executive Director of Project Alert. Congratulations.
I tell people and we tell people that we wouldn't have come this far without the support and the partnership of the African Women Development Fund.
AWDF has been more like another sister organization that shares our dreams, shares our hopes, shares our advocacy, and so many other things with us, and they are sensitive to the needs of women's rights organizations in Africa, and we have experienced it for ourselves.
It's no longer a question of justifying why women should be getting into leadership. It's now a question of getting enough of their numbers in there. So to a large extent, we legitimized women's leadership. And what remains now is to build on that.
My name is Agrippina Nandego. I work with Forward as a program officer in the Women in Decision Making program. We work with women who are interested in joining politics, and we give them skills in campaigning, and we also give them skills in fundraising. We give them skills in public speaking. We give them skills on how to network when they are doing their campaigns. This year we are going to operate in 5 districts funded by the African Women Development Fund. We have had a similar program before where we have trained women, and some of the women we trained were able to come up and were elected both at parliamentary level and also at the sub-county level.
AWDF believes in solidarity, partnerships, networking, a commitment to young women's leadership, and an intergenerational transfer of skills and knowledge.
DANRO is an organization at national level which advocates for the rights of women and girls with disabilities. Before I joined DANRO, I really didn't know anything about disability apart from myself. Before I joined DANRO, I was down at home. The first funding we got from AWDF around 2003 was meant to train people who are vying for leadership positions, and as we talk now, many of them are still in leadership positions. For instance, I'll give an example. I was trained using the funds from AWDF, and immediately after that I qualified to join local council in 2002, and since then I've gone through all the ladders. The person who started with AWDF at DANRO was Honorable Safia Narule, who is now representing persons with disabilities in our parliament.
AWDF believes in nurturing feminist principles and promoting feminist leadership.
The African Women Development Fund assisted us with a grant that we used to train those members of parliament from all the political parties. They did not know how they were going to fulfill their mandate as newly elected councillors. And with that funding that we got, we were able to literally orient them into understanding, the functions of government, the role of elected officials, and how as elected officials you relate to central government and the executive arms.
Je vous assure que ça a été une très dure décision à prendre. Ma conviction que nos pays peuvent être gouvernés autrement en prenant en compte davantage les intérêts et les besoins des femmes. Ma conviction que les femmes doivent participer plus nombreuses dans les instances de prise de décision. Et c'est ce que je dis aux femmes, je suis très franche, très sincère avec elles, je leur dis, c'est en votre nom que j'ai accepté, c'est pour vous que j'ai accepté, c'est en raison de ce que vous auriez eu comme réaction si j'avais refusé que j'ai accepté, donc je compte sur votre soutien.
African women are still underrepresented in leadership and decision-making positions. Over the past 6 years, at least 2 million Africans have lost their lives in wars and genocide. Many more have become refugees. These conflicts have placed tremendous burdens on women who suffer displacement, loss of families and livelihoods, various forms of violence, and the responsibility of sustaining entire communities.
I'm Lema Roberta Bowie. I am the Executive Director of the Women, Peace and Security Network Africa. We work to enhance women's strategic participation in peace and security governance in Africa. One of the biggest successes, I would say, of the peace building work that we did was our ability to institutionalize the women peace building activities at the community level by envisioning something called the peace huts. Initially, when we had the idea of the Peace Hut, it was, let's build a structure in each of these communities where women were part of the mass action campaign. And this structure would be a representation of the women's peace building work. One of our proudest accomplishments is our ability now to bring young girls from different communities together where they can really speak out about some of the issues affecting their lives, especially as it relates to peace and security. But we would not have been to where we are today without that real challenge grant from the African Women's Development Fund.
AWDF believes that their work is linked to that of the global women's movement, which has worked hard for gains for women and which they sustained by their voices, hands, and work of women from all over the world.
AWDF played a pioneering role when we conceptualized the issue of the International Colloquium on Women Empowerment, Leadership Development, International Peace and Security.
Because we had that grant from AWDF, other grantors then came on as they themselves went ahead and embraced the vision. But had we not had that money from AWDF, we would not have been able to expand to the extent that Liberia, a post-conflict country, could host such a meeting. AWDF also did something extraordinary. AWDF actually sent staff in to support the International Colloquium Secretariat that stayed, that helped direct, to help manage, and it was an extraordinary experience. It helped tremendously because it brought in expertise that we would not have otherwise had.
AWDF believes that the African women's movement is part of a broader movement within and outside Africa aimed at creating an enabling environment for good governance, social justice, and equality, and which tries to counter the negative consequences of globalization. AWDF believes in our own diversity and recognizes the benefit of working with diverse institutions and individuals. Africa's maternal and infant mortality rates are the highest in the world.
The statistical service said it was 541 for every 100,000 live births. In certain parts like Brown and Hartford, Northern, Upper, East, Upper West, Western region, sometimes the number is as high as 800 to 1,500 per every 100,000 live births, and this clearly is unacceptable. In the first place, we didn't have a center like this. We knew to make an impact, we needed a center, and AWDF helped us, founded us. A small girl once saw me and told me to take some tomatoes she was carrying. When I asked her, why are you giving me your tomato? You don't know me. She said, Madam, I know you. You are the people who have brought Kolebu to us here in Obojo. I felt so touched because to them we have brought Kolebu to this place, and we could not have done it without AWDF. We've now extended our services to the Ashanti region too. through again the kind donation of AWDF. We've now acquired an office.
Je suis Madame Asakba Yaba Marie. Je travaille pour SOS Vita. Bon, et pourquoi nous on a créé cette ONG? C'est parce que lors de l'exercice de notre fonction, au moment des accouchements, nous avons constaté que les femmes meurent beaucoup. On n'a pas d'argent. Et on a entendu l'organisation AWDF qui... On était parti à Lomé les rencontrer pour leur prier de nous appuyer un peu. Donc leur appui était venu nous sauver. Pour le changement, l'impact que nous avons eu, c'est que beaucoup de femmes ont eu confiance en nous. Et elles essaient de venir à nous pour qu'on puisse les aider. Et en plus de ça aussi, il y a un changement au niveau comment l'appelle-t-on, de la maladie là qui essaie d'abattre les femmes. Maintenant, les femmes ne meurent pas beaucoup.
WASH is a product of our dream to educate women and children, to support them, and to ensure that there is a safe environment for women and children in this country. WASH has benefited immensely from the partnership with AWDF. In the area of capacity building, in the area of provision of institutional support, in the area of expansion of the scope and the clientele of our services, we have benefited immensely.
With the institutional support that we have from AWDF, we have a beautiful small office. We have computers and accessories and a laptop. We have gotten audiovisual materials that women can use. WASH had held 68 education programs. We reckon that we have reached at least 9,446 persons face to face directly. We clearly would say that AWDF has funded 2/3 of those programs, of those education programs and the intervention work.
Boya ho kakra na omo so ba boya ka. Sese ya nye mfaso na ya betima ye we ni bi aton. Anye sika. E de ahwe ya mba omo ko school. E na ya to aduane. E de boya ho. Na ya sa anye sika ho kakra. Me dan na e wo ho. Sa sika na me de boya. Mr. Solomon, yani katidati yara kayara da. Yeton bi no yadi tuto enoma edi esiho. Ne yadi ebi nso ama ye mano so o mo bowo. Enu nti abo ya sa adwuma no.
Young Women Campaign Against AIDS was founded in the year 2000 by a group of young women immediately after college. Most of them we found that they were economically handicapped, and they thought of coming together and making small contributions towards helping each other. Through the grant we got from AWDF, we were able to do two things. One, for the organizational institution building, we were able to buy a computer. We purchased a fax machine, a photocopier, a digital camera, and again we produced information and educating materials. We're doing capacity building for the groups in the areas of business management skills. We are training them on banking skills. We are training them on bookkeeping skills and how to run their small businesses that they have started.
When some of the children are giving birth at the age of 10 years,
some young girls give back because of what they see their parents experiencing.
Sasa kwa ile chama singeweza kuingia ndani, lakini wenye walikuja mara kwa mara na kunifundisha ukimwi iko hivi, unaweza kupata 500, weke biashara nini, ilinibidi nikasema siku 2 siku 3, wacha leo nijikakamue nisimame.
Our main work is brick making. We had a small machine. Then the African Women Development Fund funded us a new machine which can produce partition block, max spine, and so many others. I have benefited in this project so much.
I lost my parents in 2003. By then I was in P3. I've learned so many things like making half bricks. They treat me very well as a child in Togo's development group, and I have a good future because I'm in school. They pay my school fees in time, and they've never chased me back for school fees.
First we was start there, Oyagbash. We was start. Kenny go ne press and we pass on the atu. Ni over say program kuni AWDF bin wo. Ameba bi was and wo ke o. Nani wo tun oni. She wo ta otu. Ke Oyagbash she kenny go ne. Wo lehi ni wo ba ya ni wo ka ba tu ni. Na ba ha wo tu. Wo ke won ta oven ke rolling machine ke mist machine. Na ba ha wo.
The main activity of the processing center is shea butter production. We received support in 2005 and we constructed a shed where the women can sit and process. Then storage facilities where they can store the shea butter. So that's the support we had from African women. And we also had some skills training from them. It has economically empowered them because now they are in regular shea butter business. Because at the center here, we have a grinding mill, we have water running throughout, and we have electricity.
I found out that I'm HIV positive in 2005 when I was being raped by my uncle and I was pregnant by that time.
I'm HIV positive and also I'm a lesbian. For living with HIV in South Africa and being a lesbian, it's difficult because they think that if you're a lesbian you can't be HIV positive.
The HIV/AIDS pandemic has had a devastating impact on the continent. Women and girls are more vulnerable to infection.
My name is Prudence Mabele, Executive Director of Positive Women's Network. We are basically an organization that is an NGO, and we support women and a girl child or children in general to know how to cope with HIV. And we support them and we do also counseling. So basically the empowerment of women is the core. We applied for funding. They gave us $100,000. African Women's Development Fund resources. We have been able to be trained skills, which I can say mentally. It also has helped with the violence against women, which I can say we were having a lot of that within their own support group. The fund also has helped us identify and work with people who are stigmatized and help destigmatize the virus. The fund has really done a lot, especially in advocacy. We are having a lot of advocacy campaigns. And those campaigns, without this fund, I don't know how we would have managed to challenge even our own government when things don't go right.
Swaziland has been actually hit by the HIV and AIDS up to 42%.
of people living with HIV and AIDS, but these numbers were taken from the pregnant mothers. I encountered a lot of problems with my status. So many women would come into my office, but what I found out, when we are sitting on a one-to-one base, the woman would say, I have a problem, I'm HIV positive. Programs we are having in the office now or in the organization, one is establishing and mobilizing women living with HIV and AIDS to start some support groups at a rural community level or at a community level. And then the second one, we are providing legal services to the widows and orphans whose properties have been taken by the in-laws. We reclaim the properties. If it costs us to go to the court, we usually go to the court. And then we have what we call caregivers. We established the caregivers with the support from the AWDF. All along, the caregivers were doing this job from their heart. There were no stipends paid for them. But since we started with AWDF in 2006, they are now getting stipends. They have some few coins to buy soap, that's how they put it.
In spite of the fact that many African countries have ratified the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women and other regional and international agreements guaranteeing the human rights, equality and integrity of women and girls throughout the life cycle, African women still face discrimination in all spheres of life, in public and private. Violence against women is still endemic. Discriminatory laws still serve to control women's lives and bodies, and harmful traditional practices still persist. In response to these challenges, there have always been a large number of women's organizations in various parts of Africa, working on many fronts to promote gender justice and equality.
But for the fact that AWDF gave us that first seed capital, nothing would have happened on the international colloquium. You gave us, when we talked to BC, she saw it immediately, and she gave us the initial 50,000 to start the ball rolling. It would have taken an eternity for us to get this from any international entity.
On the last two papers or 2 weeks, one in the newspaper said he wondered whether I have a husband or not. So he says, somebody can tell him whether I have a husband or not. Has never seen such a Swazi woman talking like me. So these are the impact. Growing up, empowerment. That is what is happening with the Women's College.
I have no doubt that in the next 4 to 8 years, we are going to get this crop of women leaders, entering into the public spaces and the corporate business spaces and the NGO spaces, making their own organizations and making their own waves. I have no doubt at all.
Suppose I was not an independent thing and an independent, woman, I wouldn't have been able to challenge to allow the Zimbabwean women who have been exploited for 30 years to allow them to sign their passports for their kids.
The area we work in is an area ordinarily people want to bury their noses in the ground and pretend nothing is happening. What am I talking about? Violence against women, sexual violence and all that. But we can't allow that to be, and AWDF has helped us a lot in being able to speak out on these issues and render practical support services to these women and young girls.
There have been organizations that have called me to teach them, to put them through on how to do strategic planning. Recently, I went to Farmers Development Union and I was able to help them start the process of strategic planning and also developing a gender policy. They are a group that goes to the grassroots, to women farmers, to people who are living below poverty line. And believe me, by the time we finished, even their founders knew that they would never be the same again. They had met with somebody who had met with AWDF. That is what AWDF has done for us.
AWDF formed the basis for Angie Brooks. It was like It was the running operational basis upon which we then build by going out to find sponsors to do different proposals. But without that basis, NG Brooks would not be able to run.
Many of these organizations, which constitute what is known as the African Women's Movement, have problems of sustainability because their growth and development cannot be adequately resourced. It has become clear in this new millennium that the role of civil society organizations on the African continent is indispensable. Women's organizations in particular have made significant gains and contributions. The issue of access to funding for strategic initiatives in Africa is vital if all the gains that have been made by the African Women's Movement in the 80s and 90s are to be sustained.
At the African Women's Development Fund, we strongly believe that we exist to support African women to do two things. First of all, to enable them amplify their voices. So in every grant that we give to women's organizations across Africa, we try to ensure that it in some way promotes women's leadership and promotes women's capacity to be able to raise their voices around issues of concern to them, be it around governance, around access to livelihoods, access to jobs, access to decent health care, or just simply to be able to be recognized as people who have an opinion.
I think we've been able to illustrate that African women can start something for African women and it can be successful. Secondly, we have been able to reach groups all over the continent that many organizations say are unreachable. Thirdly, I think we are able to respond to African women's needs.
Of course, as with everything else, we learned a lot along the way. But I think the remarkable thing about AWDF is that we built on a truly sure foundation of knowledge, experience, and expertise, as well as passion and hopes and goodwill. So AWDF shouldn't just be seen as, oh yes, that's the place you go for money. No, that's the place where, to use our slogan, we put our money where our hearts are. And our hearts are in the transformation of our lives. So that AWDF truly comes to stand for that organization that has supported women's organizations, large and small, to make a real difference where they are. And that difference leads to change. So that AWDF is seen as an organization that has promoted justice, equity, self-reliance, good governance, peace, security, economic, health, food, whatever it is that matters to us and makes us able to live in decency, with respect, in safety inside our homes and on our streets, that people will know this is the organization that has remained committed.
Being the first region-wide fund in Africa giving grants to women's organizations at a local, national and regional level. Since its establishment, the African Women's Development Fund has added immense value to the field of philanthropy in Africa.
It's been a very instructive relationship. It's been a good relationship. It's been a very fruitful relationship.
We thank you on behalf of all the communities that we have touched with the funding that you have enabled Kipewa to receive. Thank you so much and God bless you.
Would really love to see AWDF grow bigger, go to various regions to reach out to very many more women.
So many congratulations to you, AWDF. We still have a long way to go as we work towards an Africa where women live in a place where there is social justice and gender equality.
We really want to commend AWDF for being such a great supporter, for being a donor, for doing something that is not only impacting Liberia, but it's impacting Africa and it's going to impact the world.
Thank you, AWDF, and congratulations on your 10th anniversary.
It doesn't sound like it's 10 years, it sounds like it's been there for the last 15 years when we look at the impact, the coverage.
Let's not apologize about rewriting Africa's history, where women are the heroines, where women are the ones whose names go into the history books.
Take pride in what you've done because you've earned it. Go out and shout and let the world know that you've made a difference in the lives of African women.
Yesterday's gone, tomorrow